Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second Excel workshop. This workshop will be the continuation of the first workshop. We will just be going over more advanced function in Excel. This workshop will go over if functions, nested if functions, VLOOKUP, pivot tables, and sorting and filtering. If you want to learn functions that are more basic than the ones that I mentioned, please refer to the first workshop. So let's get started. We will start with the if function. So the only change that I made in this worksheet, this Excel sheet from the first workshop, is I added this grading rubric. So if I have this numeric grade, um, this is the letter grade that corresponds to it. So we will test this. We will just copy and paste this. We will cut and paste this over here for our reference, and we will have a letter grade over here. So I'm gonna change the weighted average for the students just because I want the weighted average to actually correspond to the letter grade. Here we have a very low weighted average because we did not have all the values for the test and the homework. So I'm just gonna be replacing the weighted average. And student has 65. Okay, so now we're going to use the if function to calculate the letter grade. So to start, as always, for a function, you need the equals to sign. So I want to select this cell because this is where I want my letter grade, equals to if, and Excel will guide you through the function. So Excel says that we need a logical test, value if true, and value if false. So whenever you type if, it will give you the requirements. So our logical test is if G2 G2 is greater than 90, we want to give the student a A. So the value if true is A, and the value if false is B. So, and then we press enter. So now the student has an A. I'm ignoring A plus for now because Colwell doesn't do A plus, but I'm just giving the student a A. So there we have it. And you'll notice that I put this inside quotation marks. I put the E and the B inside quotation marks because these are strings. These are letter grades. And these are not numeric values. So everything that is not a numeric value needs to be a put inside quotation marks. Otherwise, you will not have value. So if I forget quotation marks, it will just return error over here. It will say name and question mark. So we don't want that. We want to put this inside quotation marks. So here we have it. And since the student has a 95, they got an A. And again, like the last time, we can just copy and paste this formula over to all the cells. So now you'll notice that all of my students have a B. Even the student who has a 79 has a B when they should be receiving some other grade. So the student who has an 89 should be receiving an A minus, and the student who has a 65 should be receiving a C plus, but they still have a B. So we need to modify our if formula. And the way to do this is by using a nested if loop. So a nested if loop means that there are two or more if loops inside a if loop. So if I use another if loop over here, but it has to be inside this if loop, it is called a nested if loop. So we just delete the value if false. We keep everything else. We keep the value if true. We keep the logical test. And for the value if false, we just replace it with another if loop. So I'm going to start another if loop, and if, again, we have to give a logical test. So if z3 is greater than 85, we want Excel to return a minus, and close our quotation marks, and then b plus, and close our quotation marks again. And you'll notice that I have used two parentheses here. So one is highlighted in red. Excel makes our job life really easy for us. It highlights the quotation marks so we don't get confused. And another one will be highlighted in black. So I have opened the black parenthesis, but I haven't closed it. So I'm going to close that and then press enter. So now I have an A minus over here, and I'm going to drag this. So now I have A minus, B plus, and B plus for these students. So the next thing I'm gonna do is expand this. So we just have three letter grades, A minus, and B plus, which is why every student has either A minus, or B plus. So I'm gonna expand this to include B minus as well. And the way to do that is, again, replace this value if false. Just delete this and then put another if loop again. Now we have three if loops. So logical test is, again, Z4 is greater than 80. We want a B plus. Else we want a B minus. Don't forget to put this inside a quotation mark, otherwise it will return an error. And then don't forget to close the parentheses. So I have three parentheses over here, black, red, and this looks like purplish. So I'm gonna do that, and I have closed my three parentheses. So I'm gonna press enter, and now I have a B minus. And you'll notice that there is a small green thing over here. That's because this formula in this cell is different from the formulas in the four other cells. So this is just, Excel is just making us aware that we have a different formula in that cell. But we meant to make it different, so we can just copy and paste it. And now the green thing is gone. And we're going to copy and paste it in the cells above as well, although the values will all change. So there you have it. So now the student has a B minus, the student has a B plus. And again, we'll see that even the student who has a 65 still has a B minus when he should be getting a C plus. So we're going to expand this formula a little more. So now we're going to have four if loops. And again, the way to do it, delete the value if false and just replace it with another if loop. So if C6 is greater than then what is the next value? 75. Value if true is supposed to be B, and value if false is supposed to be B minus. So, and you have to close the parentheses again. And now we have a B minus over here. So we copy the formula to all these cells and it will be modified like this. So now we have the proper grades for all the students except this fifth student who should be getting a C plus, but we still need to expand this more. Now you'll notice that this formula has gotten really long and really complicated as well. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 if loops over here, and we expand this further, we might make some mistakes, which is why we have to look for alternatives to use instead of if loop. Let's say that there was like 10 lines of rubric over here. It would be quite hard for us to use 10 different if loops in a single formula, which is why we're gonna use something else. So the next thing we're gonna do is use something called VLOOKUP. So I'm gonna have another column for letter grade, and we are going to use VLOOKUP in this column. So the way to do use VLOOKUP is have a table first, and it should be formatted vertically like this. You should have you should have the um, reference in the first cell, and it should be vertically formatted, and the result that you want should be in the second cell, just like we have it here. So VLOOKUP stands for vertical lookup, and we can use it over here. So VLOOKUP, this is a function as well, and every time you use a function, you need an equals to sign, and I'm going to use this function bar over here instead of doing it in the cell because it can be quite long and I don't want to get confused. So VLOOKUP, and Excel will again auto populate, again suggest like the values for you for the VLOOKUP. So you need to have a lookup value first. Our lookup value is the weighted average. We need to look the weighted average in this table. So we're going to click here. And then we need to have a table array. The second thing we need is a table array. So our table is over here. And the first value is 55. And we just select everything and Excel will know where the table is. So this is done. And the next thing we need is column index number. So this means that which column in this table do you want as a result? Do we want this AB column or do you want this AC column? Since we are looking for the letter grade, we want this AC column. So we are going to say column number 2 in this table is the result we want. And the true or false refers to, do you want an approximate match or do you want an exact match? Now, in most of the cases, you want an approximate match instead of an exact match because we have an 89 over here and there is no 89 in this table. So if you type in false, it will produce an error because you don't have an 89 in this table. But if you type a true, it will look for the approximate value in this table and match it to probably 90 or 85. Whichever is the closest to that value, it'll match it to that number. So we're gonna click on true and then close parenthesis and then press enter. So now we have an A plus for the student, and we don't have to type for each and every student. We just need to copy and paste. Now we have this. And like I mentioned before, what Excel does is if you do not have absolute referencing, it will just it will feel that it can see how it selected a table, a row below our original table. So we need to have absolute referencing, and you always need to check if your formulas have been copied properly. So I'm just gonna have absolute referencing for this table over here. So AB 13 and oh, sorry, there should be no dollar sign over here. AB13 and AC21. Now we have an absolute referencing, and then we're going to press enter. So now we need to copy this formula, and then we have the proper letter grade for each student. And we did not have to type in 10 if loops. It was very easy. It saved us a lot of time and also a lot of thinking. Like a function, you need to think a lot to make it correct, and you also need to make sure that you don't make any errors while typing in your formula. So this is why the VLOOKUP is a more useful and advanced tool than you just using if functions. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go over pivot tables. So the next thing we're gonna do is go over pivot tables. So pivot tables are a really good way of summarizing data. It is a very useful tool and it makes reporting of data flexible and easy. You can view data summaries in different formats. You can slice it and modify it according to your requirements. They're also easy to use and create, and they're very dynamic. Even if your data changes, the pivot table will change the summary automatically and it will update automatically. So pivot tables are actually used to summarize a large set of data, and since we do not have a very large set of data over here, I'm going to use another worksheet which I have downloaded from the internet. So it is called Summer Olympic Models, and this worksheet actually summarizes all the Olympic medals that was won by different countries from 1976 till, let me see, until when, so until 2008. So that's 15,000 rows of data. And instead of looking at this data and getting confused, and um, it's a very large set of data, so we need to summarize this. And I'm going to summarize this in a pivot table. So what I'm going to do is you need to go to insert, and then you have to click on pivot table. So Excel will automatically select all the data in this worksheet, but it really depends on your needs. Let's say that you do not need every single data in this worksheet. You can always select whichever rows and whichever columns you need. But for this, I actually want to summarize the entire data over here. So I'm gonna just use the default, and I'm gonna add this pivot table to our new worksheet instead of our existing worksheet, because I want the summary in our new worksheet. So I'm going to click on OK. And I have my pivot table here. Now for beginners, this might look a bit confusing since this is blank. You might be a bit confused, but if you go over to the right, you will see that you have all these fields over here. We just need to modify it according to our needs to have a summary. So if you click outside of this pivot table, it will go away. But if you click over here, it'll come back. So let me zoom in a little bit first. So now we have our pivot table. Actually, so I'm gonna zoom out. So this is perfect, and I'm gonna modify our pivot table to get the summary I need. So we have all these medals or all these countries, and let's say that my boss at my work demands a summary of how many medals each country won till date from 1976 to 2008. How many medals did each country won? So he wants a summary like that. So I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna select my pivot table fields to get that summary. So what I can do is I can I can select country, and then I will have it as my rows. So now I have all these countries starting from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe, and I want medal as my column. So there I have my bronze, gold, and silver and grand total. So now I just need count of how many bronze, gold, or silver medal each country won, and I also need the value for grand total. Now we don't see that value here yet because we haven't put in anything for the values section. So we just put something for the rows and columns. So we need to put values. So what I'm gonna do is drag the medal again to values. And there we have all the values. So now we have a very nice summary of how many medals each country won and how many of gold, silver, or bronze medal each country won. So if you see over here, Afghanistan has only won one total medal, but Argentina has 153 total medals. So that's a very nice summary, very nice, useful information. Um, and we can also see which country is the highest number of medal winners. So if you just scroll over here, you will see that the United States has won 1,992 total medals, but you can also filter this. We will go over that next in the next section. So now I'm just gonna do a few more things in this pivot table to um, expand the scope of it. So now let's say that I do not want the count of medals anymore. I want What I want is I want the sport. So I'm gonna put the sport in my values, and we will see that we will see how many sport each country has played till date. So there we have a nice summary. And again, you can always drag this over here. And now we can see all these sports and how many athletes have have won medals for each sport. So another great summary we have here. And this is very dynamic. You can always change this. And if the data in this medalist column changes, so let's say that I add a new row over here and I add more years in between, then the pivot table will change automatically. So you don't need to modify anything. You just need to make this pivot table according to your needs. You just need to drag these fields. So let's say that I don't want it according to country anymore. So what I'm gonna do is I want it according to year. So there you go, according to year. So once again, very dynamic and very easy to use, and it does not make any mistakes. So there you have pivot tables. So the next thing we're gonna go over in this workshop is making charts. So charts are a very useful tool, often overlooked, but Excel has a great way of making chart, and it takes like 5 seconds. So it saves you a lot of time. So what I'm gonna do is select this and then go enter. And there you have all the charts that are available in Excel. So let's say that I want something like a pie chart. So I'm just gonna select this and then there I have my pie chart. So I have the pie chart for aquatics, and this is a great tool for visualizing your data. So if you want to present this in your class, then you can easily show this to your students. And I think students learn a lot more from visual data than data like this, especially if you have like 15,000 rows. This is very useful. So there you have it for aquatics. We will see that this is the highest row. So 2000, in 2008, the maximum number of athletes won medals for aquatics. And I think, yeah. And the second was 2004. And the lowest number was in 1976. So you actually see that the number of medals in aquatics has been growing year by year, which is a very useful summary. Again, you could have never figured that out just from this 1500 rows of data. So again, once again, very useful tool. The next thing we're gonna go over is sorting and filtering. So I'm gonna use this worksheet to sort and filter. So let's say that the I only want one discipline. I only want to see one discipline. I don't need all these rows. So I am analyzing the data for diving. So I only want to see the data for diving. So I can always filter this. The way to do it is go over to data, and then you'll see something called sort and filter. So I am going to use sort first. So I'm going to say sort by discipline, and then see, and the order needs to be A to Z. So, okay. Sort by discipline, then by event, then by athlete. So it will give you an order, and you cannot have like the same column twice. So I had discipline and discipline twice, and Excel will always let you know what your error is. So I'm gonna say okay. And now we have archery at first, and then we have artistic gymnastics, athletics, and we'll scroll down. We have badminton, baseball. It is sorted according to your according to alphabetical order. So I still do not like this. I still want to filter this just so that I only see archery over here. I do not want to see the data for anything else, and I do not want to scroll um, all this time. So I feel like it's wasting my time. I can always filter this. So just go to filter, and then you will see that each row over here has a drop down button. So this is a very good way for you to filter. So I'm gonna go over here and then unselect everything. That way I can just select one thing. from here. So let's say that I want to see the data for diving. So I'm going to select diving. And if you scroll down, you'll see that you only have the data for diving. All other data have been hidden. And whenever you see on the top of the column, you'll see that there is a small filter icon that lets you know that you have filtered according to discipline. And if you want to clear this filter, you can always go and click on clear filter, and now you have your data again. And now we only want to have data for one athlete. So I want to have, and you can always search over here. So I want to have for So I want to have the data for Michael Phelps because he's a really decorated athlete, and I want to see what medals he won. So now we have a very good filter over here, and we can see what years he won in 2004 and 2008, and he won um, gold and bronze, and he never won a silver medal in those 2 years. So this is a very useful tool again, and this summarizes your data very well. So, and also for other basic stuff, you can always refer to the first Excel workshop. And this is it for the second Excel workshop. I hope you learned a lot from it. And if you have any questions, you can always ask staff at the online education. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much, and bye.